Howdy, all you delicious people! I'm here today to review The Legend of Billie Jean, a movie built off of rebellion and not much else because this movie is very thinly written. But then, excuse me, sir, you said the word rebellion. Where can I go on and find this rebellion? Would it be on Blu-ray and DVD? No, sir or madam. I would go on to tell you that this movie is to be available on a app called Zelifonic, Zelivonic. So you can go on and see this movie for absolutely free. Wow, that's amazing. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, what is this The Legend of Billie Jean movie about? So we come to find that this movie, again, built on rebellion, is to have Billie Jean, who is going in to a do or die situation, testing her invincibility. There's probably a reason why I'm stating those words. And facing off against a man named Pyatt for $608. And this story ends up becoming all about a scooter. Unusual. But anyways, we would come to find that Billie Jean's character becomes a Robin Hood or Jesse James, like modern day outlaw-like character that everybody wants to go on and love and support and be like, well, hey, yeah, like you're running from the cops, let me help you. And that's the thing that I go on and really enjoy about this film. Also, I love the fact that we have Billie Jean wanting to go on and be such an innocent that she doesn't want to go on and rob and steal from anybody. And instead, they throw papers that say IOUs on it. And I love that. And then again, also, we have them needing to do stuff like steal cars, and Billie Jean is like, no, we can't do that. Like, we can't. It's wrong. And so we have in this journey kind of re-going back into this. So this movie all comes down to a scooter. So a scooter ends up getting torn apart. So then Billie Jean is to turn around and seek out Mr. Pyatt instead of the actual culprit himself, who is a guy named Hoobie. These names are freaking weird in this film. There's Binks, there's Ophelia, there's, I think, Putter, I think is one of the girls' names. Very weird cast name thing. We have Ringwald, who is the detective. They couldn't have just had John, Billy, and, well, technically they had a Billy. Nick. They could have had a normal named cast. Heaven forbid. Lloyd is another name of a character in this film. But anyways, so we would have Billy confronting Pyatt, and Pyatt is to want to go on and pay this girl back by evil means. And so that goes on and has Billie Jean want to, of course, be upset about this man forcing the hand of a gun to be put into someone's hands, and situations are to unfold that are to leave people on the run to where there's nowhere they can run to anymore. There's probably a reason why I'm stating all those lyrics as well. God, Invincible is such a good song. Man, how they were going on and just playing it throughout the whole movie. I'm like, yeah, keep playing that song. I don't care how many times you use it. It's a really good song. Ugh, yeah. But anyways, beyond the one good song that they have throughout this entire film, we go on and have a lot of chasing and running around with Detective Ringwald, trying to figure out how they can go on and make a solution out of this whole case. Even he himself putting forth the $608 out of his own wallet to go on and resolve this whole story. But it's the whole principle of the thing that the money is not coming out of Pyatt's wallet. But then again, eventually by the end of the film, when it seems that there is a real payout going on, Billie Jean is really just looking at the profit that Pite has made, because Pite is going to go on and make a huge profit off of Billie Jean. Face, name, everything. And really, he should not be the guy making money off of this. But he is. But he logically will not turn around because of him getting shot to give Billie Jean a dime, until it seems by the end of the film that he feels to be forced to, because she is right in front of his face. Going on further and humiliating him in public by the whole uh, learn as you earn bullshit. F that noise. But so we have a story that, yeah, is very thin, but I liked just the adventure of it all. I like how it all played out. And so at the end of the day, I will say that this movie is a solid okay movie. There is a part of me that honestly just doesn't like how everybody just kind of clearly states how they're really just getting behind Billie Jean because she's an attractive woman. And I really didn't like that. And also, like, it doesn't really seem that nobody really knew what was going on to really make any rational, like, for or against Billie Jean, because they probably didn't know the whole story. Because no one was really going on and saying the whole story until Billie Jean decided to tell her story through Lloyd, which ends up being an also just really interesting addition to this film. That leads us to uh, a, a district attorney character, and that, of course, is to be the guy from Quantum Leap, the guy who played Al on there, that I really go on and I really like from that original show. But yeah, so this movie, I feel overall is a solid okay film, regardless of how just really thin it is. I want to just state to you how thin this movie really is. It's just a lot of running around through a good chunk of this movie to just eat up time. Um, but there are just little things about it that I just really like. The modern day Robin Hood, Jesse James thing, and also like reminding us about characters like Joan of Arc, which ends up forcing then Billie Jean to cut her hair because she's like, well, yeah, like I'm the new Joan of Arc. And the weird thing of it is, like, they focus so much on the Billie Jean character, but she has a gang this whole entire film. But again, like, that's kind of like, who do you really remember in the Jesse James gang or Robin Hood and the Merry Men? Like, all you remember is Robin Hood. You won't remember his Merry Men. You may remember Little John or whoever Morgan Freeman was playing in that film, a Chew or whatever the goofy name that guy was. But anyways, uh, regardless, this movie was entertaining enough. And so with that said, let me know in the comments below if you're going to go on and check this movie out. What is your opinion upon this film? And also, I really feel that why isn't anybody going on and having like a rush to remake this movie? In all honesty, you can use this movie more so in the modern day than any other. Why aren't they remaking this movie 30 times over and over and over, to where there is even probably less of a story in the remake than there probably is in the original? But the fact that nobody's going on and clamoring to remake this movie just bothers me, because I'm like, this is the perfect film to use in the modern day. But either way, I think it's about that time to just have me go into spoiler time, because the more and more that I go on and talk about any little bit about this film, I feel like I'm spoiling it for how thin it is. I feel like I consistently have to make this complaint. I apologize. It's repetitive, but still, it's the obvious just poking of the bear that I can do with this film. So with that said, poking of the bear meaning just like the one thing that I have a real problem with. I really do. But it still was good enough. It still was good enough. One of these bad boys. Anyways, so with that said, let's go into spoiletters. Let's go into the spoilettos. Let's go into those things. Let's go into the spoilers. Because I think it's about that time to do that song and dance and talk about every little bit that is to have happened upon this film. Because I feel like I've gone on and stated everything that I should have gone on and stated about this movie. Other than that, I think let's go on and let's get into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time. I'm going to spoil this movie. And let's go on and pause this review so I can get out my phone with the cast list and information and whichever. Also, Ophelia. Ophelia has some significance. For whatever reason, there's this character that is to be called Ophelia. And I remember in the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis, there's one scene where they go on and they talk about this girl's name, Ophelia. And I think that there is some connection with, I think, like Shakespeare or something. But if anything, really, like, I don't remember exactly what that was. You'd have to go on and see the movie Trading Spaces to understand what the connection was. Or you can go on and Google it right now and put it on the comments below. Or maybe you just know regardless because maybe you wrote this film or directed it or whichever. But whatever. Ophelia also just sounds like a really funny name that a lot of people can just have a really good chuckle about. And maybe I would just love to go on and have a daughter one day that I can just call her Ophelia. So that way it would be a really funny, goofy name. No, my child would not have a name that everyone is going to just make fun of for the rest of her life. And no, I would not go on and have that be done. But anyways, let's go into this. Let's pause this, and I will be right back to tell you what is to happen upon this tale. Also, we had the Billy Idol song Rebel Yell in this song. I'm like, well, of course we do. Like, this song is to be about rebellion. This movie is to be about rebellion. This movie is to be about anarchy and whichever. Man, all the more reason for, I think, to have had the Batman character Anarchy to be used in some superhero film. But again, that's kind of off there in the hilt there. But in all honesty, I think that you can go on and write an interesting thing or an interesting movie or show or whatever about rebellion. And I think a lot of people would just go on and like, let me check this out. Like, we go on and we have shows like We Are the Wave and a lot of kind of people that are kind of standing out against these certain kind of political or pollutionary, that's probably not a word, pollution-like occurrences, and they're trying to go on and trying the best way possible, try and figure out a way to counter against all this, or figure out a way to go on and state their opinions upon it. And it's to be just a rather interesting thing. Hopefully one day we can go on and have another Billie Jean kind of film out there somewhere. Again, that probably is not to be put in modern time or current time. Maybe it's to be kind of a flashback to years past, because I think that would probably be a lot better of an escape thing instead of like pushing it into current modern day. Anyways, so let's get into this, because this movie is about a scooter that ends up being called Elite. It's an elite scooter. Oh man, I could go on and just have a little fun about that. Like, this scooter has gotten All Elite. If you don't know anything about All Elite Wrestling, yeah, that joke will just fall dead on you. But if you are a wrestling fan of All Elite Wrestling, then you know where that joke is. But anyways, moving on. It's a random joke. But anyways, so this scooter, this Elite scooter, this scooter looks like garbage. It looks like garbage. Anyways, so we have Binks who's going on and he's getting ready for the day, and he's putting water into his hat and he's chucking it onto his head, and Billie is getting her clothes together, and so the two of them are rushing to this scooter. It's like, hey, we don't want to be late. Why is it always so hot out? It's like, well, hey, like, just imagine we're in Vermont, because that's going to be the thing that we're going to keep talking about through a good chunk of this movie, about these two characters making it to Vermont. And eventually, when they do make it to Vermont, there's this thing called snow there. Wow. Snow! I've never seen this thing. So we would have these two characters driving along in this scooter, and they are to seemingly be followed by these men in this car that are going on and looking at Billie Jean like, yeah, that's a nice looking woman. And so this goes on to then have the two of them making their way to this fast food joint of some kind. And so, as Binks is to park on the scooter, as Billie makes her way into the store to try and get a vanilla milkshake, but it seems that only strawberry is to be available for some unusual reason. So, as Hoobie, yes, this guy's name's Hoobie. Why? I don't know. But so Hoobie, how many times can I go on and state that name because of how weird it sounds? So, this character, the H guy, goes on to then make his way to Binks' scooter to then place a thing of gum upon the scooter seat. Binks is like, hey man, what the heck? And Binks is like, oh. And so Binks has to go on and chuck the gum off of his seat. And so that then leads us to have Billie come back with the strawberry scooter. Scooter. Strawberry milkshake, my bad. Technically, the scooter was red. I was so close, but far away. So, we have Binks that makes such a fuss about it being a strawberry instead of a vanilla milkshake. And logically, I probably wouldn't like a strawberry vanilla shake either. But that's just a problem with just me and Binks here. No one else probably really cares. So we would of course go on, and they're wanting to just kind of make their way out of this restaurante here. But then it seems that the car that Hoobie and his friends are driving gets in the way. So then Hoobie ends up getting out, and as Binks is to make his way to the car, like, hey man, move your car, we then go on to have Hoobie, who is taking the straw of this strawberry milkshake. Let me get that right somehow for the next seconds that I have to go on and just stop saying it afterwards. We have Hoobie, who's trying to do something cool to Billie, just like, I want me some of that. And Billie goes on and dumps the shake onto Hoobie, and so both Billie and both Binks are driving off like, ha ha ha, we got him. So, again, where they go on to, I have an issue with, because I'm like, what were they late for? Really? What were they late for? Because they make their way to just this place to go on and go swimming. So again, what does the pond close at some point of the day? I'm very confused. I don't know time wise. Anyways, moving on. So we have Binks that is turning to Billie as she's running into the dock to jump into the water. And so Binks is like, well, hey, you better check before you jump in there, because there could be alligators or other animals within this water. And so Billie jumps in there, and And so she's like, well, hey, I don't have any problem with the alligators, as she jumps in. So she goes in the water, and then she's down there for a very long time. And so Banks is checking his watch, whipping out a newspaper, looking at the classifieds. It's like, like, how long has she been under there? So Banks goes on, he jumps in, and then he's like, Billie Jean, Billie Jean. And so Billie Jean pops up like, oh, you're looking for me? And it's like, ah, splash. So the two of them are now on this piece of wood, and they're talking about Vermont. And supposedly it never gets hot in Vermont. And for how often it gets hot where they're at, like that is just the like the wishing and the dreaming that Vermont is this paradise like place where like people will go on and lick their feet and just a very obscure like, man, Vermont is this magical place, why don't we go there? And then probably by the time that they actually go there, they're gonna realize, why are we here? And then they want to go right back to where they were. I'm sure that's probably what's going to happen. So they go on and they talk about Green Mountain State, and uh, and that it's got leaves that turn color, and snow in the wintertime, and this and that. So long cabins, ski lifts, snow plows, snowballs. Oh my god. Yeah, like everything that we could have wished for. Believe me, I've been in a state that snows probably more often than a lot of other places. It's not all that cracked up to be. You're gonna be like, oh yay, snow at first, and then you're gonna be like, oh my god, a lot of snow. I have to go on and get out of a place that has a lot of snow around it. Man, this sucks. And then you're like, well, yeah, but you wanted snow. You wanted to go to a place that snows all the time. What a goofy decision that was upon your life. So, but they're talking about possibly, yeah, like in the future we can have snowball fights, and yeah, no alligators. Right. So we have Hooby that is making his way out of his vehicle. I like to just say words very goofily. So if you're going on and you're coming into this review for the very first time ever, you're going to have me go on and have me just talk about a number of words and names and whatever that are very goofily said and whatever, because I like to do it like that. That's how I like to review, folks. But anyways, I also have to kind of scroll through a second here to figure out who the heck is who anybody. Who is anybody? Because there are going to be eventually certain side characters that are eventually going to be in this film. But so Hooby makes his way to Billie and Binks, and are like, oh, hey, how can we go on and how can we mess with them? Because technically they still have clothes on here. So instead, Hooby sees in front of him this scooter, and so he decides to go on and have some fun with playing with his scooter to just be driving around to do this kind of poppy wheelie thing. And he's doing all of this kind of goofy stuff. And so now both Binks and Billie are running to be like, hey, leave it, hey, yeah. So uh they're going on and saying like, well, hey man, like that's not a toy. Like Billie and Binks like have very small means of anything in their lives. So really to have this one scooter to be possibly be put in some kind of jeopardy probably means a lot to them. And to a guy like Hooby or his probably father that is to own this business and probably to be doing well and this and that, who knows? Uh like to them, like it means nothing. Like they can go on and destroy this thing that is to be probably a way or the only way for these people to get around. And yeah, so we have Billie that is going on and trying to apologize for what had happened, and state that, like, well, hey, like, Binks didn't mean anything by chucking you with this milkshake thing, this and that. So Hooby goes on and is to like go on and have this bike start to spin out some dirt onto Binks here, and then they end up driving away with the scooter. So really, the two of them are just thinking like, oh, like, are we gonna go on? Are we gonna get this scooter back? Like, is he gonna bring it back to us? And so they go on and they probably walk all the way home, and so which probably took them who knows how long, because it seems that they are really to have had to have walked like seemingly like because it seemed like a very long drive for them to get to where they were to that whole lake thing. So both Binks and uh both Billie make their way home, and so they're going on and they're now talking to her mother that has arrived. So they're going on and they're talking about the scooter, and it's like, well, hey, you spent all that money on that scooter. Now you're just kind of brokenhearted about it. And surefire enough, it seems that Bink is to share the same kind of mentality as his father, who is to have driven fast as well. We don't really know what is to have happened to their father. Like, it just kind of says that one little thing, but then again, we never see the dad anywhere. Did he die? Like, I don't know if it ever came up in this film. But so, but again, there's still that hope that Hubie is just going to just bring it back. So we come to find out that Billie and Binks's mother is going to go on a date. And so Billie looks out the window and is looking at the guy, and the guy's like, "Hey, I." Uh, and so Billie tells her mother, "It's like, well, hey, that guy looks nice." And so the mother ends up going on putting on sunglasses, and Billie's like, "Oh no, don't put on sunglasses. Like, show him your eyes. Show him your pretty eyes." So again, Binks is like, "Well, he won't bring it back." Uh, and of course, we have Billie who's trying to say the opposite here. So like, but going on and saying like he's trying to figure out a way to just get even with you, like he's just messing with you now. And so like Binks is just like, well, he better not hurt that bike. He better not put one scratch on it, this and that, whatever have you. So they all of a sudden hear heh heh in the background. So like, oh wait, this might be the scooter. So they go on, they look out the window, and they realize, or they rush out. It's not in the window. They rush out to realize, like, oh, it must be the scooter, and instead it's just this golf cart that's just driving around. Hey, what's going on? So Binks is like, you know what, I've had enough. Like, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna get my bike back. So we see him just kind of prattling off. So we have both Putter and we have both Ophelia that are going on, and I believe probably watching Glow uh, women's wrestling or something along those. I don't know if it's Glow or if it's not Glow, but either way, like it's women, and they're basically showing the goods, and the both of these girls are talking about like, well, hey, like look at those tits, like look at that girl, like man, wouldn't it be great to have those? It's just like, no, it wouldn't. So but yeah, so we have Billie that comes in to the scene here, because logically she doesn't like open the door like, hey guys, no, like she just rushes to these two being outside watching this wrestling show. So uh Billie is like, well, hey, get to the get Ophelia, get the keys to your car, we gotta go. uh And so Ophelia turns to Billie. It's like, well, hey, like my dad might need the car, but hey, where are we going? So their plan is to go to the police station to file a report about this missing scooter. So we have Putter that is going on, and here's why I need to kind of have looked up certain names because, like, am I right about Putter? Is this a person's goofy name? But anyways, so Potter ends up going on and asking Billie, it's like, well, hey, what happened to Banks? Did he get in trouble because they're going to the police station? It's like, no, like, but he's just not here, and so that's why also Potter asks. And so we have Putter, of course, who wants to get involved, and she wants to come because she wants to come for everything. Even if it means she's running away, like she wants to get involved in just everything that's going on in this story, because that's, of course, how she can go on and continue to be in this film. Logically, like this actress is just brilliant because it's like, yeah, I definitely want to go on and want to get involved in more of this film. How can I go on and somehow get more involved in movie and stand out and eventually have to cut off all my hair to stand out even more? That's what Putter goes on and does. So we of course have Putter, and she wants to come, and Billie turns to Putter here. It's like, well, hey, aren't you grounded? And Putter is like, well, I am, but that probably wouldn't stop a girl like Putter, now would it? I don't think it would. So they make their way to this police station, and we have this detective Ringwald who's going on and going and making this report. Interestingly enough, we have Ringwald who ends up getting involved in both the Billie Jean writing up report thing for the whole stolen scooter thing, and then we end up going on and having Ringwald get involved in the whole shooting case. So this one detective, like, it seems like there is not much of detectives going on in this whole movie. We just have the one guy. But then oddly enough, more than likely Ringwald is to just be weirdly enough to be the one guy who is like, well, hey, I dealt with her before. Let's see where this is going now, this story. So we have Potter who's going on and looking at people making their way hustle and bustle through this police station. Like, hey, did you see that guy? It's like, come on, man. Like, come on. So Ringwald and Billie are talking here. So Ringwald is going on and telling Billie, it's like, well, hey, shouldn't you just kind of wait a little bit before actually filing this report? Because maybe it is just kind of this little joke and maybe you will get your scooter back. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to go on and just kind of rush to things. Like, it's kind of like a missing persons thing, how they want to go on and just kind of wait a day or two before really filing this report, because logically, like, this person could just go back or just be missing somewhere or this and that. They can go on and probably find the person instead of it just being that this person is missing forever. But anyways, so we have Billie that is stating to Ringwald here. It's like, well, like, you don't know my brother. This scooter is his whole world. So, like, hey, we need to file this report just in case something is going to happen here. So again, we have this detective that goes on and states that Billie is to be a pretty girl. This Hoobie guy is or was probably just trying to uh, get Billie's attention. I have a and so the detective states, I have a feeling he'll bring your brother's motor scooter back. And what even is the scooter? Oh, it's a Honda Elite. It's a Honda Elite. Honda Elite. Whatever. So, but come to find out, the scooter had gone on and gotten bought simply because of their dad's insurance money, and there's a possibility that Hoobie will not bring this scooter back. So again, rational reasons throwing into the just ether for again this report needing to be filed and this cop needing to do something about it. So I like the fact also that I think Putter ends up saying that he's a fucker. That's how I know. Anyways, so we have the detective that's like, okay, well, like, here's my card. If the Honda isn't back on your lawn within 2 days, then give me a call. And so we go on to have this woman state like, well, hey, like, we live in Blee's Haven, to tell this guy, it's like, well, hey, we don't live in a common home, we live over by the trailers. And so he's like, well, hey, like, whatever, wherever you live, like, I'll go on and I'll like uh like in front of your trailer, then I'll give you a call. Because again, uh like, going on and saying like, oh, I thought you had like a common everyday house like anybody else's, but if you have a trailer, then like, I'll just go to your trailer. I didn't know. Like, I was just saying in general sense. But so anyways, and so like and the detective's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna drag in the fucker. But anyways, oh, I think that somewhere in here is probably where I think this is probably where is Putter ends up saying the whole thing about the effer thing. I want to try to not cuss as much, but every once in a while I just kind of get a little too curse word. Anyways, I really don't care. Logically, it is what it is. If it heavily affects the videos or channel or whatever it is, I've done so many videos at this point. I've done so many things at this point. What difference does it make? But anyways, so they drive their way back home, and so Putter is stating to go, hey, like, if my mom's still up, like, I'm grounded until I'm 35, which I thought was kind of funny. So, but then as Putter makes her way into her home, so, well, hey, man, it's like, God, all right. Like, we also end up having a point where like Putter meets her mom in prison, and her mother just slaps the crap out of her, and I'm just like, oh my God, wow, okay. Uh, and then that's where Putter ends up taking this scissor, and she's like, and then she just cuts her hair. Freaking awesome. But anyways, she also Putter's mother ends up saying like, "You're grounded, goddammit." Wow. Okay. So Billie turns to Ophelia. It's like, well, hey, I'll call you later. So Billie ends up finding a piece of this side mirror. She looks at it, and it seems that the mirror is kind of a little busted. So then she finds the remnants or remain things that is to be of a looking of a scooter, but man, is this thing just chewed up. And so Billie is like, oh my God. So she makes her way back. She's like, okay, Binks, where are you at? And so by the time that she finds Binks, Binks is just blooded up, full blooded. He's blooded. He is all kinds of messed up. And then I feel like he's messed up for the rest of the movie. The guy never gets healed from all that bully and beating and not having good times. So we have Billie that makes her way to Binks. Well, hey, like Binks, and she's like, and so Binks is like, well, I'm all right, I'm fine. It's like, you look fine, you look freaking beat the heck up. So she's like, well, hey, did Hoobie do this to you? And he's like, well, hey, I got my bike back, didn't I? So the following day, we have Ophelia that is driving both Billie and Binks around because, of course, the scooter is not operational because they have to also go on and take the scooter into service to get that uh, bill of $608 Renos. So Billie's gonna go on into this shop-like place called uh, the Sail Surf Dive, I believe is what it's called. So it's kind of hard to really tell because the picture was so small. I had to blow it up, but it's still really small. So they're going on to like go into this place, and so Billie is telling Ophelia, it's like, well, hey, like we won't take very long. And so Binks is like, well, hey, I'm coming with you, and so Ophelia is to go on and talk about how she thought at one point that Hoobie was cute and this and that. And I'm like, why? Let's go. So they make their way into this place, and so we have Billie who is thrusting this bill onto Hoobie, and like, well, hey, this is the estimate for the body shop, and so Hoobie is like, well, for what? It's like for my brother's scooter that you freaking mangled up, and so it's $608, parts, labor, paint, and taxes. So Hoobie, of course, is like, well, hey, like, what? Like, you're out of your mind. I'm not going to pay for this bill. So she goes on, and of course, like she is to just be oddly just like this girl just likes to kick people in the nuts. She just likes to go on and just, how can I just kick people in the nuts this day? Because, oh my god, did she just go on and just papa? So Billie goes on and kicks Hoobie in the nuts. And so Pyatt comes in here, Mr. Pyatt, and is kind of looking in, like, well, hey, like, what's going on? Son, why are you on the ground? This and that. So Billie ends up stating what is going on. It's like, well, hey, like, your son owes me $608, and I'm here to collect. And so your son ended up trashing my brother's scooter, and now he's going to go on and fix it. So Mr. Pine is like, well, yeah, like, that sounds like my son. And like, yeah, of course. Like, so, and Hoobie is like, well, she's fine, Dad. Like, whatever. So, Hoobie gets out of here, and so Mr. Pine is talking to Billie. It's like, well, yeah, it's a never dull moment with my son. So, uh, maybe Hoobie's still here, because I think Hoobie is still here, because there's a whole line of, there's a whole line of things where he goes on and he talks about how she's from the trailer and this and that. And so, if anything, there is no reasoning for bringing this up because it won't resolve anything. It's like, well, hey, she needs this money, and you're the one who had gone on and done the deed, so like the punishment should kind of fit the crime regardless. But anyways, so uh, but really, Hoobie is like, well, hey, she'll say anything. She's lying. She's this and that. So here's where Pyatt gets rid of Hoobie and he tells him, like, well, hey, man, like, you're a little sick. Maybe your kick in the nuts made you ill in the face, so maybe you should get the heck out of here. That's what he probably should have said. Like, hey, ice those nuts, buddy. It'll do you some good. So, and also he goes on and states, like, the boys who make too much noise, uh, I'll settle this, take a hike. So, we go on, and so Pine ends up saying, like, well, here's the thing. I don't really have the money here, like, in the register. How about we go up, to this whole, like, stairs, like, thing, and go up here? And Billy, of course, is very hesitant, but it's like, well, hey, you want your money, right? So they go up to this place, and so Pyatt is to go on and start getting the money. And Billy mentions how, like, normally a lot of folks probably wouldn't be paying that bill, and or no, wait, Pine ends up saying, like, well, yeah, like, a lot of folks probably wouldn't go on and pay this bill. It's your word against my son's. And Billy's like, well, hey, I'm telling you the truth. And so, and it's all about, like, well, hey, I believe you no matter where you live, this and that. So, uh, also, like, this guy goes on and brings up Billy's mother and how she knows Billy's mother and this and that. So this all gets to a point where Pine ends up going on and handing Billy money, but it's not the $608. Instead, it is about $50. And Billy turns to Pyatt. It's like, well, hey, like, why are you only giving me $50? And he's like, well, hey, it's a layaway plan. Like, you're going to go on and have to work for that money. And, like, here's your payment now, and I'll give you some more money later on. And so Pyatt goes on and is grabbing Billy on the arm, forcing us to probably have her realize that she is going to, in a very, work for this money in a very, like, forced way. Uh, and so we then go on and have, of course, Pyatt throwing out words uh, like learn as you go and this and that and all that garbage. So we have Billy that is going on and going to leave and get away from Pyatt. And so both Binks and Ophelia make their way into the store. And Binks goes on to be like, well, hey, like, he needs to give us this money, so why don't we just straight up take it from his register? Really, that is to go on and really be stealing, Binks, because you did not go on and discuss with this guy the whole thing about money, and you're just kind of taking from his register. But also, another bad thing on top of this, we then have Binks, who is to find this gun in this register. So by the time that Pyatt and Billy come down these stairs, Pyatt is grabbing onto Billy, and you realize uh, that Billy is under some kind of distress here. So Binks, of course, being a very protective brother, goes on and is to have this gun out and just be like, okay, like, what am I going to do here? I don't want to go on and shoot this guy, but also, like, I don't know what's going on with him and my sister. I wasn't there. Like, what are we going to do here? So this whole exchange of things goes on to have Byatt telling Binks here, it's like, well, hey, man, the gun's not loaded. And and then also like Binks is to possibly think it's not loaded, and so he shoots Mr. Pat in the shoulder, and then he goes down. It's like, oh, he told me it wasn't loaded. I didn't know. Uh, we also had Pat that goes on to tell Hoobie as he makes it into the store to call the police. So because it sounded like they were going on and stealing money from the register, because they had gone on and had this gun from the register. So moving on. Uh, they possibly think that Mr. Pine here is dead, but luckily they go on and find out later that he's not dead, but he's going to go on and make money off of Billie Jean here. So Hoobie calls the police as the kids run off, and so again, Binks is still stating about like, well, hey, like I didn't mean to shoot him. Like he didn't say the gun was loaded, and like if anything, like no one's going to believe you. You shot a guy, so you're probably going to go on and go to prison for the rest of your life. But again, nobody goes to prison in this movie. Nobody, it seems, presses charges. Nothing happens. Everybody gets off just scot free. Whatever. Uh, but if anything, also they're contemplating as they're driving off here, like crazy people. It's like, well, hey, like it's his word against ours. Nobody's gonna believe a bunch of kids, and like he'll just lie and say whatever he wants to get whatever he wants. So, Oli- Ophelia goes on and she makes her way to the gas station. And Billy's like, "What are you doing? Continue driving." And Ophelia's like, well, hey, my dad will go on and check like if the gas is empty. It's like, no, just continue freaking driving. We gotta get out of here. This is basically a getaway at this point. So they continue on driving, and so now they're making their way back, and everybody's realizing that they need to just get their together and run away here because they realize that they're probably going to get arrested. So everybody's starting to collect their stuff together, and so like Putter is just like, oh my god, uh, like I'm coming with, because again, she wants to go on and grab all of her marbles and everything, and plushes and whatever, and just kind of run off with all of these people. So we have Billy and everybody that goes on, and after getting all their stuff together, turns to Olivia, and Billy's looking at Olivia. It's like, well, hey, like, where is your stuff? And she's like, well, hey, like I'll drive you anywhere you want to go. But hey, like at some point, like I'm gonna get back home because really, besides Ophelia just kind of being the getaway person, like what crime is she really gone on to be a part of? Maybe uh conspirator or something, but logically, like, I don't really see Ophelia actually to have been a person who had gone on and done anything wrong. So, jail time? I don't really think so. So, they they start driving off. So Ringwald is getting involved in this case. So we have Hoobie, who through the yearbook is to point out who the people involved were uh, with this case, and ends up putting out Binks's character and then Billie Jean's character. So luckily, because they do have yearbook pictures, they, I guess, go on and turn around and have the yearbook pictures to be on the news, like, well, hey, you're on the lookout for this girl named Billie Jean and this and that. So, and also, like, the yearbook picture ends up getting onto the news and ends up getting onto newspapers and this and that. So that's why they go on and they know about this Billie Jean character fairly quick within this film. So Ringwald is just kind of upset at the fact that it's like, man, did this escalate quickly? But he's also just like, man, like I really blew it with this one because, man, like I really could have quickly resolved all this if I would have taken the time and like took this case instead of just kind of waiting it out. So Hubie goes to be sitting on this thing of stairs, and so Ringwald makes it to Hubie and is like, well, hey, like your name wouldn't be Hubie, would it? Like, well, yes, I am. And it's like, well, hey, kid, I know that you're all shook up about this, but if anything, you and I need to talk about scooters. So we turn around and come to find out that the kids are hiding out at this mini golf thing. And we come to find in this mini golf thing, they end up taking some golf balls. And eventually later, we have Ringwald, who is to kind of inspect these people's cars and finds the golf balls there. It's like, aha, like I know where they are now or where their hideout is. So we have Putter that wants to go on and stick around with both Binks and both uh, Billie. And Billie is telling like her and Ophelia, it's like, well, hey, you guys can go back home now. Like, if anything, the less involvement you have, like, the more like problems there will be. And then also, it seems that the only people that are going to be connected with anything are going to be both Billie and both Binks here. So, like, it doesn't seem that anybody's looking for Ophelia and Putter here. So Billie is telling him to like, hey, go on back home. If anything, you can be our eyes and ears. And Putter and all the friends are like, well, hey, like you can go on and get interviewed on the radio. What about TV? And and so like just kind of thinking like, hey, these guys can go on and be famous. Ooh, wow. Like famous in a good way or bad way, we're not sure, but either way they could be famous. So as Ophelia and Putter almost drive off here, Putter is to turn to Ophelia and be like, well, hey, you better let me out of this car or I'm going to throw up. So Putter gets her bag, makes her way back to the group, and so Billie is to go on and try to get comfy in this mini golf place. But then she ends up realizing that somebody's making their way to the mini golf. And so Billie investigates who this is. And so Ophelia makes it back. And it's like, well, hey, like Ophelia turns to Billie. It's like, well, hey, I was a part of it. Uh, Billie Jean, I was there too. So they go on and they all start to get in the car. And again, there is golf balls in the back of the car. So Binks is going on and talking about how they need to get to Vermont and that they'll never find him there. Like, I don't know, with how often that the two of these kids have been talking about Vermont, that would be probably the one place they would go. Because logical Ringwald needs to do is to ask the mother, it's like, well, hey, like, have they ever talked about anything? Yeah, they talked about Vermont a freaking lot. Like, oh, okay, let's go to Vermont because that's where they're going. So Ophelia is just like, dude, we don't even have enough gas for that kind of trip. So, uh, and so he's like, well, hey, we'll just steal it. We're outlaws. That's what Bink says. And Billie turns to Binks like, well, hey, no stealing. We may be outlaws, but we're not crooks. Yeah, say that to the rest of this movie where they go on and they put IOUs and they steal cars and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. So we of course have Putter, who's like, well, hey, I'm hungry, outlaw, where's breakfast? So again, Binks is going on and sitting and go, hey, in Vermont they have pancakes and they have syrup off of trees. And it's like, well, yeah, that's all well and good, but who's going to be paying for those pancakes? And where are we going to find those trees? But so Billie turns to Binks and says, well, hey, stop thinking about your stomach. And uh, and start realizing that maybe Mr. Pite is dead. So they make their way to this gas station. And so Billie is to grab a couple of things in this little basket. And we turn around, we have Putter, and she has a full cart of just all of this junk food. We can literally see that it's like peanut butter fingers and Reese's cups and Kit Kats and this and that and all of this stuff. Like, I think there's like 2 bags of cookies in there. I'm like, where is the food? I get that this is a gas station, and that's a weird statement to think that a gas station logically has some kind of real food to intake at this specific time period, but still, this girl is just chucking in a bunch of junk. Oh my god. So they're gonna freaking die of diabetes when they make their way to try to hide out. They're all gonna die. But anyways, we have Billie that turns to Putter. It's like, well, hey, like, what are you doing? We can't afford this. And so Putter is going on, and she takes one little candy bar and she's putting it in her shirt. It's like, hey, no stealing. So the more and more that they're talking, all of a sudden these kids come up from behind them, and they're like, well, hey, like, you the girl that's on the newspaper? And so it's like, luckily they had that newspaper. And so like, well, yeah, like that's my news, or that's my yearbook picture. And Putter ends up saying, it's like, well, yeah, she had the best picture out of the whole class. So Billie ends up going on and stating about the newspaper. It's like, well, hey, like, it was all an accident. We never meant to rob anybody. And the girl turns to the boy. It's like, well, yeah, I told you. And they're saying that's like, well, nobody really blames you anyways. And so the boy is going on and telling the 2 girls, like, well, hey, you're never gonna go on and steal all that food out of there, and you're buying a lot of junk. Buy at least something healthy. I know that this is a gas station, but come on, gals. So the 2 kids go on and they dump all of the food on this counter. And so the girl ends up stating, it's like, well, hey, like, put this bill on onto my dad, because he's just outside. And so Billie goes on and is like, well, hey, like, thanks, I really appreciate it. And the girl's like, well, hey, can I maybe have an autograph? And so like the girl is signing away, I'm sure, yeah. So uh the one boy is like, yeah, you can end up dead. So they drive off here, and so they're hearing within this newspaper that the victim had been taken to the shoreline hospital, where his condition was listed as good. And so Billie turns to Binks like, well, hey, you don't have to worry about this guy being dead anymore, because it seems that you attemptedly murdered him, is what I wanted to say. So Binks is like, yeah, as he gets out of the car half bodied and like, yeah, I didn't kill somebody. I attempted killing them. Yeah. So we have a phone call being taken place where Billie and Binks's mother is their Billie and Pinks is calling their mother. So we have them having a bitter conversation here. And so Billie is calling her mother, but then also the detective is there. So Billie is to go on and say that she wants to turn themselves in, and the detective is like, well, yeah, that's a very smart move on your part. It's very wise. Like, all right, so uh, and so they're going on to a specific place to turn themselves in, and also Billie is to still want that $609 from Pyatt because technically, since he's still alive, they still want that money. And she wants to have him personally there to hand over the money. So we have the detective. It's like, well, hey, like, is that absolutely necessary? And Billie's like, well, he owes us. And so they're going to the Ocean Park Mall near the fountain, noon tomorrow. And so the detective is like, okay. Ringwald is just like, okay, I'll make all the arrangements. Like, this is great. Like, you're going to turn yourselves in. So, and Billie's like, well, yeah, that's all we wanted. Fair is fair. Oh, yeah. Just do the pose. So, at the Pyatt store, we have this sign on this window that says, where is she now? And this is to be Billie Jean, and she's in her swimming suit, uh, like by this water. Or technically a swimming suit, because I guess that's whatever she just wears. And I'm like, where did they get that photo? Uh, did Hoobie have a camera? Where did they get that photo? If anything, you should probably had the yearbook picture. That probably would have made more sense. But now we have a photo that I'm like, okay, where did they get the photo from? But anyways, moving on. So we have Ringwald that's going on and telling the the wanting of Billie for that whole $608 thing. And why? And so Pyatt here is like, well, hey, like, I got shot, and you want me to pay for it? No. Mm-mm. Bye bye. No, no. Mm-mm. So he's like, I'm not paying for a goddamn red cent to those little bastards. I lost 2 pints of blood. I want them in jail for that attempted murder, not full murder, attempted. So Ringwald goes on and says, well, hey, like, your son busted their scooter, like, uh and so he's like, well, hey, like, then sue me then. So or Pyatt is like, well, sue me. So people come rushing into the store and they're like, well, hey, guy, that picture, like, are you selling that? Are you selling the picture? And Pyatt is like, no, why? And so all of a sudden everybody is coming into this frenzy of like, well, hey, like, I'll pay $5, I'll pay $7, I'll pay that, I'll pay that. So Pyatt is like, oh my god, like, these people are bidding over this stupid picture. All right, well, so as it continues to up, $10, and so Pyatt is like, well, hey, I'll sell you it, if you want a frame, and it'll be $1,250. So $1,250 for this one picture. And then so we go on now to then have, like, the guy saying, like, oh, hey, like, since this could be a commodity, like Pine is going on. He's like, hey, like Hoobie, go on and roll up that picture because people are paying a handsome fee for this. And he's like, well, hey, yeah, there's gonna be more to come. And so Ringwald is like, wait a minute, you'll go on and you'll make money off this girl and sell her picture, but you won't turn around and pay her back the $608. And he's like, you damn right. Maybe I can make a little something off of this. It's like, God, just makes me want to go on and just whip out a knife and just just God. And also, like, he's turning to the lieutenant. It's like, well, hey, like, you want one too, lieutenant? Like, I'll go on and give you one, half price. So, yeah, in my mind, there would have just been some fantasy rolling around in my brain and just like, but then again, you would just see the guy just fully alive and whatever, and he's fine. Because heaven forbid people go to jail. But anyways, we have Binks, we have Billie, and Binks is just like, well, yeah, like, we haven't left Texas yet. Let me pause her again. So Putter is thinking that it's like, well, hey, like, they're probably not going to go on and give us real money. They're probably going to give us play money here. So, but if anything, they're probably going to trust. They're probably going to now get the money now that the police is involved. So they make their way into these toy stores, and we see like stuff in the back that says GI Joe on it. I'm like, ha 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 ha. Like, I wonder if there was some kind of money making scheme to be sponsored with this movie here, to like, hey, GI Joe, can you throw us some bucks? We're technically using your product, so how about you go on and like pay us like for sponsorship? Because who knows, maybe that could have been the one thing to how they were to figure out in this story, like, well, hey, maybe we can get sponsors from these people. And but maybe who knows, maybe that was just kind of written in the story regardless. uh but if it was to be a sponsored thing, man, was that clever. So again, here's where we chuck all the IOUs. And so we have Ringwald, who's making his way to where they were supposed to meet here. And Binks is going on and finding a action special forces gun here. And it looks realistic, so he's going on and taking this and stealing it. So Ringwald is giving Pyatt here the money, and Pyatt ends up turning to the lieutenant here and said, well, hey, like, you are putting forth the $608. Like, how much you make a year, lieutenant? Like, uh aren't you a little out of your mind to go on and use this kind of money to solve this whole case? So, and so it's like, well, how can you even afford that? And so like the detective's like, well, hey, like, that's not your business. So and then Pite is also just like, well, hey, why am I going on and giving her the money? It's not my money. And Ringwald is just like, well, hey, like, she wants it from you. Like, you're gonna be the guy handing it over with your greedy, freaking nasty hands. So they go on, and so Billie's on the walkie, and she's like, okay, Mr. Pite's with them, and they got an envelope. So it's like, all right, so they have the money, and so she's relaying this to Binks, and like, okay, so like this seems like they're gonna go on and they're gonna go through with this. So we also have Ringwald, since there's some time to kill. he's asking Pyatt, it's like, well, what really happened in that store, Mr. Pyatt? And it's like, well, hey, Billie is a pretty girl, so what really happened in that store? So all of a sudden they start to realize that Billie is there, and that kind of cuts this whole bit of dialogue. And so Pyatt is to look at Billie. It's like, oh, you made a deal, did you? You made a mistake. These cops aren't going to help you. So, and he's like, you would have loved it, Missy. And he freaking puts the money on the ground, steps it over his foot, yells for Hoobie. Hoobie comes running. So you were probably to think that Pyatt is to probably keep that $608 from this cop because he never hands it back to him or anything. They never like exchange it back to like, hey, since you didn't go on and you gave this girl this money, give this back to me. Like that's my life savings. Somewhat. So Hoobie is going on and running after Billie, and again, another kick in the nuts leaves Hoobie down on the ground. And so the police officer kind of just scrambling now. It's like, okay, get her. Like since like she's here, we're gonna go on and chase after her. And so Ringwald turns to Pyatt. It's like, you dumb son of a bitch. And so they start chasing after her. And so Billie had this plan. She has all these marbles in this backpack. I'm like, oh, that's where the marbles are to just kind of play out with. That was actually a weird, goofy thing that just kind of, interestingly enough, worked out in the later part of this film. But then again, also, like, I'm sure there was a plan for those marbles all along. But anyways. So the marbles were all dropped onto the ground, and so all these guys are tripping and falling on this. And so the two girls are in the car and they're kind of scared, but it's like, well, hey, like keep the door open. So like as soon as she gets in here, she can run to the car and we can make a getaway. So as Billie makes her way to the car, Binks is to toss this trash dumpster like thing in front of the door and then lock it. So Ringwald ends up getting to this parking lot of this parking garage like thing of where they're at, and is to not be in front of the garbage dumpster. He instead took this other route around. So we have Ringwald that goes on and tells Binks here. It's like, well, hey, stop, freeze. And so Binks whips out his gun, and so he's like, well, son, put the gun down. There's no one here to hurt you. And so, like, hey, Binks, get in the car. And so Binks jumps into the car. And so the real worry here is that Binks could have gotten shot. Because we have the officer that is going on and having a real weapon, and Binks doesn't. And then, hilariously enough, also, they end up bringing up after the fact that like the toy was a gun, and or the gun was a toy, and so like the district attorney is talking to Ringwald. It's like, well, hey, you look a little silly now, don't you? Because they're like, well, yeah, like we did come to find out after the fact that there was a bunch of IOUs, and that Binks had possibly stolen a gun. So yeah, like uh really like we have to realize that all of those were just toys and whatever we were just had here. So we have three people that were going on and doing interviews, and one of them, of course, ends up kind of stating what had happened, and one guy again ends up stating that Billie is hot because of course he does. There was also this one girl who goes on and she ends up, wow, this girl. So what do you think about Billie Jean, lady? Well, she's a rebel. Personally, I think they're picking on her because she's a girl, and I think that's disgusting. Really? Was it really that she was a girl, or that she could possibly have been involved in an attempted murder? I'm going to go on and say the second thing, instead of her being a girl, was to really be the real reason why they're just chasing after her. But hey, lady, you have your opinion. By all means, just whichever. So we then go on and now have their faces now on the television. And so Binks, Putter are going on and realizing that, like, hey, like, we're on the TV now. So Binks is going on and stating like how like uh he's like, yeah, I would have had that guy. Look, I had that gun and this and that. So Billie is just like, Binks, like, you had a toy gun. Like, that guy is a real one. He could have killed you. So it's like, oh yeah, but I had the drop on him. Yeah, no, you had the drop on nothing because your gun wouldn't have gone off. And then also, he would have killed you. Anyways, so both Ophelia and Putter are coming back with some bare essentials. Yeah, bare. If you guys don't know Ninja Turtles 2 with Michelangelo, who brings back potato chips, and it's the whole joke about, yeah, bare essentials. You don't know movies. You just don't. But anyways, so Banks is kind of looking at the stuff. It's like, yeah, like, you guys really didn't bring back enough. And it's like, well, yeah, we only had like 75 cents left, or 78 cents, my bad. So, again, they're talking about Vermont. Like, well, hey, we could go and live in the woods, eat plants and leaves, and go hunting. And they're talking about how, like, well, hey, like, wait till my dad sees this, because, like, the front of their car is a little dinged. And so we have Vince who looks at Ophelia. It's like, well, hey, like, your dad ain't gonna see nothing. And it's like, well, hey, we'll see when we get home. So they're driving around, and so they go to house to house to house, and they're trying to see if anybody's at certain homes. Maybe think that they're abandoned or something, or that possibly that all the lights are out to maybe think that somebody isn't home. So they're going through all these big lavish houses, and they end up finding out that one house doesn't have lights on. So, like, well, hey, maybe there's no one in this home. So it looks empty. So they go into this house, breaking and entering. They open this window, still breaking and entering, and they make this. They make their way into this person's fridge. Again, big massive cake here, and there obviously is, for one person, two sodas. Wow. And then also there is a questionable chicken that they're eating. I'm sorry. If you don't know it's chicken, don't start eating it. It could be any kind of food. You don't know. You could get really sick from it. Because it may just be some unusual food. Could be dog food. You don't know. So if you have to question if it's chicken, no. Just don't eat it. No, no. Goodbye. So we all of a sudden come to find that there's somebody in the house. And they have this weird security room that they're looking at all these TVs, and they have these weird, bizarre-ish werewolf-like hands. I'm like, what the heck is going on in this film? Is this like 13 cameras or something? What's going on? This guy's a little weird, whoever this guy is. We find out that it's Lloyd. So, Billie all of a sudden is to be hearing some noises, and then so she investigates. She starts going up these stairs, making through this hallway, and then all of a sudden there is to be this almost werewolfish like character that is to be creeping up behind her. So we go on and find out that Billie is to start opening doors, and she finds this very creepy room that is to have a bunch of costumish like masks and all this kind of weird, goofy stuff. So all of a sudden, there's to be Werewolf Lloyd going on and scaring Billie from behind her. So we again have Billie, instead of her foot this time around, she ends up taking this guitar and again going for the nuts. Viciously nuts! So we have Lloyd that goes down, and so we have Lloyd that is going on, and he's standing like, well, hey, I almost choked. Choked on what? You got hit in the nuts? Because that's where it looks like he was gotten hit, I believe. Anyways, going down. So we have Billie that tells Lloyd, it's like, well, hey, you shouldn't have, aren't you supposed to know, like, you aren't supposed to scare people? And it's like, well, hey, you didn't have to hit me either. So Billie notices that Lloyd here takes off of his weird, creepy mask. It's like, oh, he actually looks attractive. Maybe I should go on and eventually fall in love with him at some point in this film. Bizarrely enough. So Billie ends up asking Lloyd, it's like, well, hey, you live here? And Lloyd is just like, yep, just me and my dad. He's in Dallas. Then it's Raymond and Gloria, but they're just the work and they're not here. So we go on, and so Lloyd is realizing, it's like, well, hey, like we can go on and like we can make you a star, like we can, hey, you want to be in movies, kind of thing, and so Billie's like, you're weird, and it's like, well, hey, you're Billie Jean, like you're gonna be famous, so uh, we have uh Binks and we have all the girls, Ophelia and Putter. They're going on and they're rushing to where Billie is like, well, hey, we're on TV, and then they're like, oh, like, hello, guy, we don't know who it is, whoever you are. So, like, who is he? And so it's like, well, hey, he lives here. It's like, no, like, so what's your name? And so the guy introduces himself as Lloyd. Uh, and so, like, Lloyd obviously knows who these people are because he wasn't living under a rock for a week. So, Binks turns to Lloyd. It's like, well, you're a dead man, Lloyd. And so it's like, well, hey, like, we're missing the news while talking to you. And so Lloyd ends up going on and grabbing this remote and click. And so we then have a TV that is showcasing the news. And so they're watching the news. So we have Pyatt that's going on. And it's like, well, I'm not going to lie. It was personal with me. And I decided to take a personal action. And I don't think there is a father in this country who wouldn't have felt the same way. I'm like, that sucker. That's what the kids are like, that sucker. So, and so Pite is like, well, yeah, I got a teenager myself, and no one has to tell me what the younger generation is all about. These kids are playing games with the law. Change the channel. Or no, no, wait, the kids are like, change the channel. Who wants to hear this? So, and so one of them ends up saying, I do. So they eventually end up kind of flipping around, and they start to realize that everybody and their brother is covering this whole thing, and they're like, "Oh my god, we're on every channel." So one guy ends up stating that they had gotten robbed by Billie Jean and them. It's like, no, that's not true. And he's like, well, yeah, like I was tied up and they took $427. It's like that dude probably stole that money himself. What a weirdo. Like this guy just wants his 15 minutes. F that guy. So all right. So but if anything, again, like they realize and rationalize that any of these people are just trying to just get their 15. So like really they'll just lie and they'll just say anything to just get on the news. So they start flipping through channels and eventually they stumble on Joan of Arc. I think Putter ends up going on and asking like, well, is that a boy or a girl? And so as the Joan of Arc is going on and talking about her crying through her blessed church and this and that, so we have Lloyd who explains who Joan of Arc is. It's a girl, Joan of Arc. And uh come on. Let me pause here for a second. She dressed up as a small man. All the French followed her to fight the English. If you don't know anything about Joan of Arc, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure had Joan of Arc kind of briefly in their film. Uh, really, also, I would assume that there probably should be a Joan of Arc movie out there somewhere. Logically, this person is to be just so much a vital person in history that, yeah, like a lot of times there is to be a woman that goes on and disguises herself as a man to just kind of remind us of Joan of Arc at some points. But so Lloyd goes back into like she started to hear voices, uh, stop being a peasant, be a soldier. France needs you. Truth, justice, whatever place that she lived in way. So, and she won. She beat the English. And the French burned her alive afterwards. So, after going on and telling this tale, Lloyd is to take this candle, bizarrely, and then he goes on to thrust himself into this pool slide and jumps into the water. And every single one of the characters all jump in afterwards. So, besides Billie, Billie is going on and continuing to watch this Joan of Arc thing and really like gravitates it so much so that she's watching this whole thing and watching her burn alive at the stake. And then wants to turn around and cut off all of her hair to possibly mimic her idol. So Billie, after going on and watching Joan of Arc, just really just having a good time about it. Honestly, also, just rationalizing now, if actually they were watching a Joan of Arc movie, there actually should have been a Joan of Arc movie that I probably should have mentioned here. That there, because I was like, yeah, there should be a Joan of Arc film. They're technically watching one. My bad, that was a stupid statement, but I don't know. I was just kind of thinking out loud. But really, there should go on and be more than just that one black and white one. But regardless, let's move on here. So, Billie goes on to talk to Lloyd. It's like, well, hey, you can make videotapes, right? And you can also make copies of those videotapes. And Lloyd is like, yeah, what's your plan here? And then he's like, oh my God, what a great idea. And he's like, you want to go on and take all of these copies and you want to bring them all to all the news place stations. And you also want to send the video to the cops as your uh, as your kind of statement, so that way they know your story. And so it's like, that's a brilliant idea. So they go on, and so Billie's like, well, hey, uh I'm gonna leave for a little bit, I gotta go to the bathroom. And so Butter's like, oh, she has to pee. And so uh here's where Billie goes on, and she takes these scissors, and she's cutting her hair. So Boyd is going on and adjusting this camera to be like, okay, Billie's gonna stand here. And so uh we have Binks, who spots Lloyd's drugs, as well, hey, are these uppers and downers? And Lloyd is like, well, it's for asthma. And it's like, hey, you want one? So weirdly enough, here's the thing: if he has asthma, why doesn't he have an inhaler? Why is he having drugs? Maybe during that time period, maybe there was just drugs for asthma, not an inhaler. Maybe for asthma, there is to be both drugs and inhalers. I don't know. If anything, uh, I know a person that does have an inhaler, but it doesn't have anything to do with asthma. Moving on. So, uh, weirdly, Putter is putting on masks. I don't know why, but she is. They already know her face beyond the news. Why is she going on and disguising it? It makes no sense. But I guess they're probably trying to figure out ways to like hide the innocent. Maybe is where they're going with the masks. Like, well, hey, we don't want to all go on and show our faces on this TV thing. But anyways, so Billie comes out with a new haircut and a stick of juicy fruit, and they're like, "Oh my god, you look famous!" So Billie goes on, and she's is to get the record straight here. And so they cut the tape because we're going to go on and hear her talk later on when there's a bunch of people glued to this TV, and the detectives are watching this also. So the two of them are making their way back into this car, as there's a possibility that they're going to say goodbye to Lloyd here. It's like, well, yeah, they're taking forever. So Billie and Lloyd are both talking, and Lloyd even himself is like, well, hey, I need more screen time. So eventually Lloyd comes up with the conclusion of like, well, hey, how about you kidnap me? And so I'll go along with what you're doing. Because eventually Lloyd comes to the conclusion, like, well, hey, if you kidnap me, uh, the police will even pay more attention to you because you now have like a bargaining chip and whatever. So, uh, but if anything, also like Lloyd is thinking, it's like, well, hey, how about you guys stay for a while? How about uh, like my dad won't even be back for another week. You guys can just stay here. And it's like, well, hey, we're gonna be hey, we're gonna kind of cause you a lot of more trouble. And Lloyd is like, who cares? So Billie is just like, well, yeah, you're sweet, but you're also weird. So Lloyd is like, well, hey, I'm not as weird as you think. So we then have Lloyd, who is having the as the guys leave. Lloyd goes on, and he now has like rope on his hands, and he goes on and tells him his old plan about him being kidnapped. And so, if anything, this is all to be brought up of like, well, hey, like if they have the boy kidnapped, they'll negotiate. And the funny thing of it is, like, they don't even really know that I don't think they even really know that the boy is really getting kidnapped until they get to the house. But still, like, there's no real like ransom. There's no nothing because uh Lloyd tries to go on and make this videotape, but he keeps laughing the whole time. So we turn around, and we have this kid who is trotting his way to this police department. I'm like, dude, this kid is all alone. Protect the kid. And also, he has like some red hair, so he looks a little like Chucky. It's creeping me out a little bit, this little kid. I also wanted to just say that because it was funny, because I like to say jokes. Anyways, so this kid is just trotting along, just like, hey, I have this thing, I have this video, I know exactly where to bring this to, I know the exact guy I need to bring this to. How does this kid know this? How is this kid this smart? How well did they train this kid to do all of this stuff? I am confused. So we have the detectives that are going on and they're talking and they're having this map and they're pointing at it like, yeah, words and stuff. So all of a sudden this kid comes in and he has his tape. And so the Ringwald looks at the little boy and is like, you brought me, like, how'd you get this? So they come to find also that the videotape is a moot point because Billie is on the air anyways, and she's stating what she's basically stating already in the tape. So she goes on, and so Billie is stating here that her name is Billie Jean Davy, and I want to set the record straight. I'm not a liar. I'm not a thief. Yeah, you're a thief. And neither is my brother. Well, he already stole a gun already, a toy gun, so technically thief. So again, she's not exactly setting the record straight. So much has happened already that kind of negates what she had just gone on and said. But Billie's also giving props to her mother. Mom, I don't know when I'll be coming back home, but we love you. And I know people are making up stories about us. Don't believe in them. Just believe in whatever I'm telling you right now. Like, also that we're not thieves, but we also are. As for you, Mr. Pratt, Mr. Pyatt, you're a sleazy man. You think you can do anything you want and lie about it. And we just have to take it because we are just a bunch of kids, right? Well, not this time. From now on, we're doing this our way because we're Burger King. Have it your way. Your rule. No lying, no cheating. Fair is fair. Everybody's like, yeah, oh, she did the pose, she did the thing. So Billie goes on like $608 for the scooter your son trashed. That's what you owe. And we're not turning ourselves in till we get it from your greasy, dirty hands, you mother. That's what she should have said. Fair is fair. We didn't start this. We didn't mean for it to happen. But we're not giving this up till you pay. Yeah, woo! Even the kid is just like, yeah, yeah, I just want to do one of these. Everybody's doing like, yeah, one of these, yeah. Everybody do the pose. So Ringwald is going on looking at the little kid. He's like, yeah. And so the guys are just like, she's becoming a martyr. Freaking nobody's going to put her away. Like, freaking, yeah, like this girl is like, the further and further this goes on, the worse it's going to get. So the police officer goes on and finds out and tells Detective Ringwald, it's like, well, hey, they've got a hostage. So how would they know? The dad is freaking gone for a week. Like, I guess it would have to come down to the worker people that are to, I guess, be there the following day. Conclusions have to be drawn on my part, I guess. So Ringwald goes all the way to now Lloyd's home, and the district attorney ends up appearing via helicopter, justifying like this guy was busy, but like there is extenuating circumstances to force him to appear. So they go on and they look at the table. It's like, well, hey, like it doesn't look like there's a kidnapping here. It looks like they had a party. That was kind of funny. And there's a suspicion that his son is kidnapped, and the district attorney's like, well, there's no telling what this boy is going to do. Like this boy could easily have disappeared in some room of the house somewhere. How do you know he's kidnapped? But anyways, uh, so Ringwald is stating here, it's like, well, yeah, this wasn't a kidnapping. It's a bunch of kids just having a fine old time. And we, of course, have the district attorney that turns to Ringwald. It's like, well, yeah, like, what about that fine old time with you getting a gun pulled on you? Fun and games still. And uh, and so Ringwald is just like, well, yeah, like thinking over about that gun. It's like I think that gun was some kind of a toy. It wasn't real because he goes on and states about the whole like there was footage about Bing stealing that gun, and there was a bunch of IOUs down by these toys, and so the district attorney's like, oh, the kid got the drop on you with a toy gun, and Ringwald is like, well, yeah, I believe he did. It's like, dude, you fired, fired. This district attorney should have been like, dude, he put a gun on you, fired. Someone else is going to be doing this case because man, if you just got fooled that easily, like, so. But if anything, also this district attorney is just like, man, I would have liked to have seen that. These kids are smart. Uh, got the wired service invested. Got the network. The network's interested. Got to give him a lot of credit here. I'm running for attorney general, and he knows he can screw with me by going on and doing this whole kidnapping thing. He's talking about his son Lloyd. So we go on and we have Lloyd here, and he's roped up to this weird place, and he's going on, and he's like, please, Dad, do whatever they say. These are some heavy duty criminals. Oh, God. And he starts laughing. And so, and everybody just starts laughing. And it's like, well, hey, you have to be serious here. Like, this was your idea. So Lloyd is like, okay, okay. So Lloyd goes on, he's like, Daddy, just remember, if you get somebody's ear in the mail, it's mine. Sure it is, son. Sure it is. Maybe it's just a monkey ear. Who knows? Maybe it's just some costume ear that you just had lying around somewhere. So Banks is going on. I'm like, God, you guys are really boring. So, uh, we turn around here, and so, both Ophelia and Putter come back and they're like, well, Rich, we're rich. And so, come to find out, uh, it seems that Lloyd is to have had a bounty on his head. Like, well, hey, like, anybody can go on and bring in this kid for $10,000, and so like, oh my god, what? Like this guy like really has money, I guess. So Lloyd is like only 10, really, and so Lloyd is like, wow, I have straight A's, like president of the drama club, this and that. So they find out so much about Lloyd. So Billie is like, oh my god, your father is the district attorney, and and Lloyd is like, well, temporary. There's plans for attorney general. So Billy's like, well, how come you didn't say anything? Like, you could have gone on and just, like, easily just had us all arrested. So, they also bring up about the pills. And so, like, Lloyd had said that before about the whole asthma. That it's like, well, yeah, like, Lloyd ends up saying, like, well, yeah, like, I haven't had a pill since leaving the house, and I'm fine. And he hasn't wheezed yet at once. So they're going on stating that, like, his father won't go on and he won't negotiate, and Billy's like, well, hey, your dad is gonna be worried about you though, and we have Lloyd that is going on and trying to change the subject. And he's like, well, hey, like, you're getting too famous now. Like, if anything, we should go on and buy you a wig, Billy, so like you won't stand out so much. So Pyatt is turning around and having a whole huge monument done with Billie and her face, and she's holding a gun. And I'm like, okay, where was that from? Where did they take that picture from? So they're making hand over fist off of this girl. They're going on and making shirts, hats, they're slapping the name Billie Jean on anything. You would think Billie Jean would turn around and be like, hey, copyright infringement, I'm gonna sue you. And Billie Jean would probably go on and easily find a lawyer to go on and do something like, heck yeah, like, let's sue this Pyatt guy. So we have Pyatt and we have the district attorney and Ringwald talking here. And so Pyatt is saying to the district attorney, it's like, well, don't get me wrong, I'm really sorry about your son. But the minute I heard about it, uh, the minute I heard about it, I knew the people would sit up there and listen. You think it's just the money? You're wrong. The average citizen is sick and tired of seeing kids running wild. Looking at this, looks. Uh, uh, Look at this. Look at what's been coming in. See that? Look at that. Parents, educators, businessmen. It's John Q. Public. Parents, educators, businessmen. Blah 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 blah. So all of them even at voting age. So all of them are all going on and buying all the products, all these things, and this and that. So immediately when the district attorney is like, "Oh, voting age? Oh, like, so this may go on and affect my election." So and so Pyatt is going on and saying, it's like, well, that means if you're running for office, you better damn well pay attention because people want the filth cleaned away. So Pyatt is going on and saying, it's like, well, hey, like, to hell with your law enforcement, do something. So we of course have the district attorneys like, well, hey, settle down here. So, and wait, what so let's push back from this. So, uh, they want to go on and put all these kinds of roadblocks, everything, helicopters, yada yada yada. So, if anything, they're also contemplating whether or not that this is a real legitimate kidnapping or not, and if anything, they're just kind of thinking about the worst possible scenarios and just kind of going from there. So we turn around and we go on and have the guys that are going and they're buying these wigs. And so they're driving off, and it seems that Putter is just eating all of these Kit Kat bars. And Putter was mentioning, like, well, I don't feel good. And so Billie turns at her. It's like, well, of course you don't feel good because all you're doing is just eating like Kit Kat bars all the time. So as like, oh, I guess they're not driving off. They're just kind of parked here. So Billie turns to these kids, and they're like, well, hey, you're Billie Jean, right? And if anything, like, can you go on and can you help this guy named Kenny because he's in trouble? So all these kids are making all this way to Kenny's house, and Billie's just like, well, what the heck am I gonna do? But the more and more that all these kids gather, she's like, well, I guess I have to do something. Like, what can I just? I can't just get out of this one. So Billie goes inside this guy's house where Kenny is down on this ground near this chair, just kind of huddled and just kind of fetal positioned. So we have this man that's going on like, okay, who the hell are you? And so Billie's like, well, I'm Billie Jean. And he's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not her. Like, no. So get out of here. And so Billie is turning to the kid. It's like, well, hey, get your things. We're leaving. And the father is like, no, stay put. But then all of a sudden he starts to realize out the window, it's like, oh my God, like, you are that girl. Like, and I guess that's your gang outside. Don't bring them in here. I don't want any trouble. He's like, well, hey, like, if you're thirsty, I got some soda in the back. So he goes on and he. So we go on here, and so Billie is going on and. So Billie takes the kid and the Kenny, and so she comes out of the house, and so she then clarifies with everybody. It's like, well, hey, this kid is going to her grandma's, and everybody's like, yeah, right, like she saved him technically. So they're going on and they're like just signing autographs and all these things. So everybody's going on and accusing them of like, well, hey, did you rob that liquor store? Uh, did you steal this? And like, no, we didn't. So trying to get this as quickly done as I can because I realize that I'm already covering 2 hours for a movie that's probably an hour and a half. So we come to find out that this couple is realizing that Billie Jean is surrounded by all these kids in his car. And so the one guy whips out his gun and he's like, oh my God, I can go on and I can take down this girl because I want that 10,000. I want that 10,000. So Billie Jean gets in her car, and so they start to drive off here as Billie Jean puts on this wig. So this guy is now following or kind of following and aiming and shooting at the car as they're driving off, and it hits the windshield. And in the back of the car, uh, Binks is going on and banging all the glass, and Lloyd is like, "What are you doing? Like, those are real bullets. That's a real gun." So they're being chased by this car now as the guy gets back into his vehicle. And like, well, why is he shooting at us? What's going on here? So the one woman is telling the guy, it's like, well, hey, don't shoot them. And he's like, I'm only shooting the tires. All of a sudden, we have Billie notice that Putter is now bleeding from somewhere. And so Billie immediately assumes that Putter is now shot. And Putter is like, no, like she's having her time of the month. And it's her first ever time. And so like, oh my god, it's wonderful. And so like, all right, like, so they're like, hey, time of the month, yeah. So they go on, and what ends up happening is, while they're going on and they're trying to get away from this guy's car ends up flipping, and so that's how they get rid of the guy. So as they make their way to this place to kind of get away from everybody, they try and see if they can fix the tire, but then the tire goes flat again. So both Putter and Billie here are going on and talking about, well, yeah, like if you would have gotten hurt or if you would have died, like man, Putter, like so. Uh, and then Putter is going on and talking about how she needs to get a diaphragm, and they're kind of both like, nice. So we have Billie and Binks again talking about Vermont. They can't stop talking about it. Uh, they have blizzards. Everything is white. The ground, the sky, even the air. Blah 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 blah. Let's move on here. So Billie goes on and she gets out of the car and she starts talking to Lloyd. And the big part of this conversation is like, well, hey, like we need to go on and have Ophelia and Putter like they need to stop getting involved here. Like we're really realizing that that there's some danger that's going to happen, and so we don't want them involved. So they're possibly thinking that maybe they can go on and try to hitchhike their way out of here, and Lloyd is like, no, like everybody knows about you. Like there's no way that you can just escape, and everybody probably wants to see you dead also. So because of the whole 10th thou. So but also there's a lot of people that want to get this whole thing a real resolution to get Billie that money back because she's Joan of Arc. So both Lloyd and Billie kiss here, and oddly enough, like Billie is just like, well, yeah, I don't know about that. Uh, and Lloyd is just like, well, that's because we're just kind of standing up, like we're not getting the best out of what we're gonna do here. Anyways, so we turn around and so Ringwald goes on and is to find both Ophelia and both Putter in this car, and so he wakes him up. It's like, well, hey, I know I found out about you because Billie called you in, and so Ringwald is asking the two girls like, well, hey, where is Billie? And they state that she's everywhere. So the reason why Binks is in the car is because he's with both Lloyd and Billie, and they're at this golf course, and they're thinking about contemplating stealing uh, one of the cars there. And so they're going kind of back and forth about stealing it and this and that. And like, well, hey, we're not stealing, we're borrowing. So and at this point, the more and more they go on and they steal and they do these bad deeds. Like, who's gonna care about a motor scooter anymore? So, but also they make the joke about like, well, what are we gonna do? Leave an IOU? So while both Billie and Lloyd are arguing, Binks steals the car, and the further and further that Binks is now waiting after he steals the car, the two of them are starting to argue, and So that all of a sudden leads a bunch of people chasing after the car, which leads all three of these people to be running away here. So they all separate. So both Lloyd and Binks end up at the mini golf thing because uh, Billie assumes that that's where they're going to re meet back up at. So, but Billie is going on and running off here, and she finds this girl who has the exact same haircut as her. It's like, well, hey, like, get in, uh, get in. What are you waiting for? So they both get into the car, and so now both Ringwald and the two of the girls are going on, and they're talking here, and all of a sudden this one detective comes in. It's like, well, hey, Lieutenant, like we got her. We got Billie Jean. And so, come to find out as they look at all of these people, we come to find that there's just a bunch of girls that all have the exact same haircut. And I just kind of find that so funny. That's like all the girls now have this hairstyle just like Billie Jean here. So we then have Putter's mother that arrives and slaps Putter in the face. And here's where Putter grabs the scissors and cuts her own hair to look like Billie Jean. So we now have both. mm, so we now have Billie who's going through all of these certain people that she has kind of gone into these cars with. Billie jumps onto one of these motorcycles, and as certain cops are starting to look for her, the motorcycle is just going to be this distinct, like, okay, like, let's hide out here, and then we'll just drive off. So there's even bumper stickers now that say, I love Billie Jean. It's very weird. So, uh, for one car that Billie is to just hitchhike in, the people are going on and saying, well, like, hey, like, how about you just go to Mexico? And Billie's like, no, I can't. Like, if anything, they still need to get this whole story resolved here. So, by the time that there is to be this roadblock, the cops end up kind of looking into the car, and Billie Jean's not in there. Billie Jean goes into this kind of weird underground facility, and so she goes into this another car that drives her to the mini golf thing. That's where she meets with Binks and Lloyd. So, uh, Billie sees that Lloyd is now there, and she's like, "Oh, I thought I chased you away finally." It's like, nope, like he's not gonna get chased away so easily. So both Lloyd and Billie go into this little private area, and they're talking about how everything is so mad and crazy right now. And so eventually they go on and they kiss again. So here's where Ringwald goes on and looks into the car and notices the golf balls. So he makes his way to the mini golf thing and is now talking to Billie here. It's like, I want to make a bargain with you, Billie. You listening? I want you to turn yourself into me. I want Lloyd home and safe, and you too. You listening, Binks? I have the scooter fixed up better than new. We gotta end this, kids. You hear? We gotta end this now. I want you to pick up the phone and call me and say yes. You hear? So Ringwald walks off, and so Binks is just like, man, the scooter's better than new. All right, they fixed the scooter. So they go on and they call Ringwald, and so Billie Jean ends up saying, it's like, well, we'll do it, but we want to do it the way we want. Uh, and so Ringwald is like, well, hey, I'll give you my word. And so, but Ringwald is like, well, hey, I want to make sure that the boy's all right. The boy ends up going on and saying like, "Hello, this is Lloyd. How are you? How are you doing, son?" And he's like, "Well, I could use a steak." I thought that was funny. So and so Ringwald is just like, What was that? What was that?" It's like, "Well, hey, isn't that enough? Like, didn't he talk enough? Like, he's fine. He's perfect." So Ringwald is like, "Okay, where do you guys want to meet?" So they go on and they meet at this one hugely public area, uh, the Derby Beach. So they go onto this Derby Beach, and so we even have this radio personality that has kind of been through this entire film now here, and it's going on and talking about that he's the judge and this and that, and he wants to talk to anybody who's going to talk about this whole situation, yada yada yada. So the district attorney ends up again going on and talking to Pyatt here. And so the whole damn state of Texas and she picks this one place here. Uh, there is a reason. What is it? I don't know. So maybe she thought it was a symbolic thing. So the whole world is listening. The whole world is watching. There has to be a reason for like her wanting to pick this one place. Uh, And so the radio guy is going on like, "Oh, come on in, Billie Jean, this is your day." Uh, so Pine is going on and sitting. It's like, well, like I'm still hurt. Damn it, a bullet's a bullet. Uh, like even if a kid did the shooting and uh, now buying this toy gun crap, these kids are dangerous. You remember that. So Pine is going on forcing the district attorney to like, well, hey, you need to do something, and like there could be a danger to these kids. So how about you go on? So the district attorney eventually brings in sharpshooters, and eventually that will turn everything horribly awry. So again, as Pine is still making money off of frisbees and all kinds of garbage. So uh let me fast track a little bit here because we have the radio person that is going on and talking to some people, and so Ringwald ends up talking to the district attorney. Uh, and I really want to just kind of fast track through a lot of this. Yeah, I really just want to fast track through all of this. So, uh, eventually, Putter is to appear here with Ophelia, and Putter is to now showcase her shorter hair, and like, yeah, and everyone's like, yeah. So, uh, we have Ophelia that's talking to the detective, the Ringwald, and it's like, well, hey, thanks for the party. Uh, this wasn't my idea. It was Billie Jean's. Hope to God she shows up here. That's Ringwald here. So they're also thinking with how many people to look like Billie Jean that maybe she's already here and they don't know it. So of course there's the question of like, okay, where is the scooter? I don't know. We're hunting a new mirror down. So mm, Ring uh Ringwald here realizes that there's sharpshooters involved. It's like, well, hey, why is there sharpshooters involved? And uh, the Ringwald detective goes on and rushes uh, to the sharpshooters. So like, hey, like, give me the clips, give me this, give me all the bullets, and so the sharpshooter ends up saying, hey, I see her. So And so Ringwald is like, well, hey, just let me take care of this and let him walk on in. So we come to find that this is to actually not be Billie who is holding up Lloyd here, it's Binks instead. So Binks is looking for the scooter and come to find out Billie is now wearing a wig and she is to unveil the scooter and is to raise her hand and Binks is like, yeah, like they did live up to their promise. So it's like far out. So we have Hoobie that comes rushing and he realizes that it's not Billie Jean, it's Binks. So he's shouting that out. Uh, Binks goes on and he is to just kind of get closer and closer to Hoobie instead of Lloyd, and so they take the shot. Then they shoot Binks in the arm and they take him down. And so now Billie Jean is all just like rushing to try to get to Binks because it's her brother. So the ambulance ends up getting called. And so Billie Jean is now just kind of walking around because nobody knows it's her. So Billie Jean makes her way to find out that Pyatt is having this huge, massive tent with her face all freaking over it. And she's like, oh my god. So she's now in tears, and justifiably, why shouldn't she be? And so Billie makes her way to Pyatt, and Pyatt's like, well, hey, what do you want? You got no business with me. And Pyatt is like, yeah, you think you're so damn hot. And so Billie turns to Pyatt. It's like, well, hey, who paid? Like, you obviously didn't paid. Or you obviously didn't pay. Like, who paid? We come to find out that the district attorney paid for the scooter because, like, he just wanted this all resolved, like Ringwald does, and so, like, he paid for the money. So Pyatt is like, you still want your money? That's what you came here for? Why didn't you say so? Uh, I got the money right here. So Pyatt goes to this register, and Billie's like, "Oh, you're gonna give me the money now? Now, after all this has happened, you're gonna give me the money now? After Binks is now freaking shot, like you're gonna give me the money now?" So Pyatt is just like, "Well, yeah, it's a real shame what happened. Just got out of hand, is all." So again, like Billie's like, "Well, who paid for the scooter?" And that's where the district attorney's like, "Well, hey, I did." So and Billie's like, "Oh, you paid for because of Lloyd. Like you paid to get this resolved, to get your boy back." So Pyatt grabs a ton of money and just gives it to Billie here. It's like, "Hey, don't need to count it. Like a little more, a little less. Who knows? I don't know." Like so here is where Billie finally unloads on Pyatt here. And here's where she finally goes uh, and starts talking about how like the pay as you go thing and this and that and that basically she's gonna state now how like she was to be either molested by this guy or whichever like so the further and further she starts talking or the more that she starts talking about the uh you learn as you earn and this and all this garbage all this nonsense so that he had gone on and tried to manipulate her and try to figure out a way to get her to do what he wanted and put money in her hand. Now, Billie, for all the things that she had gone to, when it would have just been a simple thing of her getting the money from this guy, and he refused it so furiously up until the very end here. Billie doesn't want the money now. Billie doesn't want the money from him because he would have never have gone on and paid it up until Billie being face to face with him was to then cause him to go on and force the payment then. So here's where Billie should have honestly gone on and stated something other than what she really states here. She states, "You can keep the money. Go buy, or go buy someone else." Which, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking that she should have gone on and said there. So, because it's like, well, yeah, like she tried to buy, or so Pyatt tried to buy Billie in the early parts of this movie to get what he wanted. So like, hey, like, take this freaking this dirt money. So come to find out, Pyatt mistakenly had gone on and started to burn down his place, and so Pyatt is going on and trying to rush to call the fire department or to have Hoobie like throw some water on, and Hoobie is as much as possible trying to go on and disappear here. So everybody is starting to go on and take every Billie Jean piece of merchandise and burn it all in this fire. Everybody's taking off their shirts, their hats, everything, and burn it. So Billie turns to Ringwald, and like it doesn't seem that Ringwald is going to at all arrest Billie Jean, which I'm like, okay, like, wait a minute, like, seriously, this girl went on and like attempted murder and this and that, and there's gonna be like no charges filed from any of this. There's not gonna be like a kidnapping or anything. Like, does everybody just love Billie Jean and just be like, no, like nobody's gonna press charges here. Nothing's gonna happen. There were so many thefts and so many things that happened. Like there was no prison time for any of this, but I guess that would not have been the happy ending that this movie deserved, I guess. So Ringwald and Billie have this moment here, and Ringwald is like, "I'm not going to arrest you. Like, go on, go away." Like we know that Pyatt here, he deserved what he got. So, uh, and then also like there was kind of a offensive kind of thing. Like Billie was being grabbed by Pyatt, so really Binks really was to just shoot Pyatt because logic dictated that like it was a whole defensive measure thing, and regardless, the attempted murder just kind of trumps all that. So the very tail end of this movie seeks out having both uh, Billie and Binks at Vermont, and Binks kind of looks at this snowmobile and he's like, "Oh wow!" And that's how they finish up the film. So I'm gonna get that out of here because I realized that I probably almost spoken an hour over this movie. I don't really care. Really, I really probably made a lot of mistakes through this review, hence why it took way longer than it probably should have. But regardless, I feel like I go over 2 hours anyways, regardless of how the length of the movie is. But this one is way, I think, way too long. I'm sorry. But I'm going to keep doing this the way it is anyways. I'm never going to change, probably never, unless, like, the videos just never do well. But regardless, people can go on and watch this however they want to. You can go on and just have this be a thing that you can come back to and just kind of watch little details. You can go on and watch the first 20 minutes of this and then click off. Whatever you want to go ahead and do, it's fine. Because at the end of the day, at least I went on and just did a video today. I could have just done nothing. I almost felt like I did nothing yesterday. I'm also just kind of really at this point, besides what I've already kind of been having people voice their opinions about through the community, I'm almost starting to run out of uh, new ideas for stuff to go on and do. Because I do already have certain ideas of thumbnails and stuff already kind of planned out ahead of time. So I'm kind of picking and choosing through those. But really, also, at some point, I'm probably going to run out of movies to choose from. So hopefully, I'll go on and at some point just kind of figure something out. But until then, here's where we are. Uh, I do hope to still go on and do some interesting titles that I still have gone ideas from, so we'll kind of pick and choose and figure out where I go with that. Uh, Beyond me already having prepared thumbnails and background stuff already ahead of time. Um, but anyways, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.